Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store for such products like the Zoom H1 Portable Digital Recorder. Affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel, and Star Wars The Last Jedi has been out now for about 3 weeks. And the movie has been controversial, to say the least. It's I would argue, loved by more people than not, even though the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is clearly indicating otherwise. It's now at 50%, lower than even, I believe, Attack of the Clones. And, you know, hey, here's the deal. Rotten Tomatoes has backed it up as being legit, even though there's been groups out there that have argued that they've gone out and they've manipulated that number in order to screw with the movie for taking away the expanded universe, according to these fans. It's a whole big mess. But there's an SJW element to Lucasfilm now that has been under fire for quite some time. And here's an article that was posted just the other day on Dangerous, which is Milo Yiannopoulos' site, clearly slanted in one direction. And I wanted to respond to it because I agree with parts of it. I don't agree with other parts of it. The title here, Meet the Women Who Ruined Star Wars. And clearly it's showing Kathleen Kennedy, Admiral Hodo, or Vice Admiral Holdo, and Rose Tico, really it's Laura Dern and Kelly Marie Tran from the film, and, trying to imply that, these are the women that have ruined Star Wars. Star Wars, I just want to be abundantly clear right off the bat, was not ruined by women, I think. I think The Last Jedi was ruined by just poor writing as well, and that is talked about in here too. So let's jump into this here. Suffice it to say, it's been over 2 weeks now, and Star Wars The Last Jedi was met with not the greatest audience response. That is true. A 51% score on Rotten Tomatoes, 6% lower than Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and a sharper box office drop than Rogue One standalone film. Actually, just as a quick update to that too, it didn't even open #1 in China. However, that is not uncommon, considering the fact that other Star Wars movies haven't fared very well there also. It says here that the reception is understandable. Nobody asked for a Star Wars movie with Yo Mama jokes, a crazy ghost Yoda that can call lightning from the sky by giving a big thumbs up, or Porgs trying to make Chewbacca a vegetarian, nor a scene where Luke milks Lena Dunham. Outside of the Lena Dunham thing, yeah, I mean, pretty accurate there. The Yo Mama joke in, I think they're referring to definitely like the Poe Dameron, jokes from the beginning of the movie that completely just like didn't even really like set the tone so much. It just kind of felt like you're doing a comedy. It was like Rian Johnson attempting to imitate Mel Brooks, something you would have seen in Spaceballs, not in Lucas's Star Wars or even J.J. Abrams' Star Wars. A crazy ghost Yoda that can call lightning from the sky. It wasn't, Yoda pops up and kind of like nudges Luke to I guess you could say, to embrace his destiny, so to speak. It's a good way to look at it. But yeah, burning down a tree. But then again, we also kind of know later on why he did it, and we learn that. The Porgs trying to make Chewbacca. Yeah, this one did bother me a little bit. The Porgs were only created as a way to get around the puffins that were on the island in Ireland where they filmed the Octu scenes. So Disney basically shoved Porgs in the movie, clearly for marketing purposes and merchandising purposes, and it's paid off quite well. I found them to be pretty much just pointless and annoying. The scene with Chewbacca frying one, and going to be eaten, I thought was pretty funny. The Porgs were like, "What have you done to Bob?" And Chewbacca should have been like, "Well, Bob is dinner. And if you don't like it, you're next." I can't do Chewbacca. You guys get my point. The Luke milking whatever creature that was, that was really, that could have been cut out. There are people to blame for this franchise stumbling so early, but the most important of it all is Star Wars Story Group. The group, led by Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, is supposed to rule over the franchise's canon, story, and make sure the continuity and consistency is seamless. Now, they've been talking about the story group since, I believe, episode 7. They've been talking about it. There's supposed to be a big thing. There's all the books. There's all the comic books. There's like Star Wars Rebels. I mean, they have this big room full of these writers. What went wrong here? That's my question. Because it feels like the Last Jedi just went, another direction from what they had been establishing with J.J. Abrams' film. Now, it seems that they were busy promoting the diversity on their team instead of guaranteeing success for the franchise. In an interview with Fortune, she says, 50% of our executive team are women. 6 out of 8 of the people in my story group are women. I think it's making a huge difference in the kind of stories we're trying to tell. And arguably, that can be seen on the screen. You look at Rey being the lead in episode 7. You have Rey being the lead in episode 8. You've got Jyn Erso in Rogue One. The new, characters of Vice Admiral Holdo. I keep saying Hodo. And also Rose Tico's character are obviously trying to, be part of this. And again, I have no issue with that whatsoever. It's I don't care who's playing in a role, unless it's already a pre-established character with pre-existing canon. If all of a sudden Luke Skywalker became Lucius Skywalker, I'd be just like, or Lucy Skywalker, I'd be, I'm pretty sure that Luke Skywalker didn't rear-end somebody in Malibu, kill them, and then all of a sudden the next year come out as Caitlyn Skywalker. But the point is like that would be something I'd have a problem with. Otherwise, I don't care. I just want good storytelling. While she ran around with a shirt that says the Force is female and staffed her story group with women, she apparently forgot to actually plan out this franchise. And that is what we're hearing now from a multitude of sources, is that they did not have a plan for any of this. In an interview with Deadline, director Rian Johnson revealed that there was no big outline on the trilogy, and that he had full creative freedom to do whatever he wished with The Last Jedi, meaning Disney and the Star Wars story group left the fate and the success of this multi-billion-dollar franchise to chance and at the whim of whichever director and writer happened to be directing at the time, and that is bad. Say what you will about the prequel trilogy, and there's a lot you could say about the prequel trilogy. Lucas had essentially a vision, right? We were going to see Anakin as a child, Anakin as a young adult, and Anakin become Vader. That was the arc for Anakin, as well as it being wrapped around the Emperor rising to power, different kind of political, scuffles, so on and so forth, the rise of the clone army, the fall of the droid army, blah, 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 the fall of the Jedi, all of these things he was trying to do. And he was trying something different, and you could see that he was attempting to build. And I do believe that the prequels got better as they went on. They hold no candle to the original trilogy, obviously. But at the same time, I can go back and watch Revenge of the Sith and be like, you know what? I see what he's up to here. And I would love to kind of see where he was going to go with episodes 7, 8, and 9, his next trilogy. After watching this one, I'm almost like, I know Razorfist had said, you'll be screaming for George Lucas before this is done 2 years ago. And I'm not going to lie. I think he hit the nail on the head on that one. So he gets it. But it says here, it doesn't help matters that Disney apparently temporarily scared off director and writer J.J. Abrams, who is a big Star Wars fan and the safest bet to direct this new trilogy. It is unlikely that his absence in writing and directing The Last Jedi was planned. I don't quite know. I think that what happened was there was enough of a backlash initially against The Force Awakens because it was too safe. Even though JJ had said that he was trying to basically ease people back into the world, ease people back into the franchise, but he might have played it a little bit too safe, whereas Rian Johnson was just kind of like blew it up and whatever. And then JJ coming back for the next one is probably also going to play it safe, considering the fact that there's been enough of a backlash against this movie and the things that were done in it. You can understand that. Now, the characters in so it's unknown why he's returning to write and direct the finale of this trilogy, but fans speculate that Disney got cold feet after the shoot for the latest film was completed. Again, maybe. But at the same time, they gave Rian Johnson a whole new Star Wars trilogy, so clearly there was something happening there. So whatever happened with Colin Trevorrow, edit, and I have a feeling it's entirely possible that Trevorrow, who's very much a company man, he failed with his pet project, whatever the one he did. It was some kids thing, and it failed. It was a passion project of his. He got funded because of Jurassic World. That came out, that tanked, and as a result of that, I think his credit with Lucasfilm was kind of hit, and he ended up walking away over differences. Or he saw the movie, or he saw the cut of it, and he was like, what the fuck do you want me to do with this? Like, oh my God, you're taking away my cast, because he very much, I think with Jurassic World, he kept within the themes of the original film at least, and still played up a lot of that stuff and kept it true to a few of those things. And as a result of that, I think he looked at The Last Jedi, I was like, I don't know what you want me to do here. So there's that. And then JJ is very much a safe bet. Chris Terrio is also co-writing the script. Chris Terrio worked with Ben Affleck on Argo, as well as Batman v Superman. And I do believe Justice League as well. So he's got big budget movies under his belt as well. And I think him and JJ will be able to turn out something pretty cool. Now, the characters in Last Jedi mirror this myth. Admiral Hodo, nicknamed by critics as Admiral SJW, is the definition of leadership as explained by someone with critically low testosterone. A person who must not explain herself is expected to be followed blindly without question and must not be upstaged. Now, see, to this, I have a bit of an issue, considering the fact that when she first comes in, and she's first announced to be taking over for Leia when Leia is indisposed. Poe looks over at the other guy and is like, wait, that's Holdo? Like the person who did this big thing at this big battle? Like she already has, they were establishing her ability to lead. Now, granted, it was a tell not show moment, which is not something they should have done. And what followed clearly played in line with that, ultimately leading to the events of Canto Bight, which is just, I even went to Subway today, met a girl, the girl there was making my subs. She's a huge Star Wars fan. We're talking the movie and I'm like, oh, what'd you think of it? And she's like, man, I hated the Canto Bight scene. No one liked the casino scene. It made no sense. It stopped the movie dead in its tracks. But had she explained to Poe about this, then, he wouldn't have sanctioned that mission from Finn and from Rose, and that was clearly a big problem there. Additionally speaking, at the end of that scene when Leia's back and they're kind of wheeling Poe onto the escape pod, Holdo goes, man, I really liked him, or he's brash, I like that, and Leia's like, yep, you can see why I like him too. And it's all like, well, wait, hold on, if you like this about him kind of take charge and like do this whole mutiny thing, it just seems ridiculous that you would also not then tell him of your plan to cloak all the escape ships. Again, cloaking is a new thing in Star Wars, this movie, and then sending it off. So there's things there that just didn't really make a lot of sense in how she was portrayed. I didn't look at her as an SJW. She wasn't looking at, I don't think she was looking at him as like toxic masculinity. She was very much establishing her dominance as a vice admiral versus a commander, or at that point, a captain. And he was coming at her kind of like, coming at her hot, and she was like, hold your roll there, Ma, and so you would expect that from any vice admiral or any person in a chain of command. Ultimately, though, given the fact that only 400 people remained and it was really kind of pointless to not tell everyone the plan right up front, it does come into there's questions there about how the story was portrayed. But I didn't look at her as Admiral SJW. People are mostly just saying that because she had purple hair. I lived in Portland, man. You see crayon heads everywhere. Not all of them are SJWs. This character's utter failure to show she deserves to be in charge, and that she has some sort of plan, and failing to build up to the rebels' confidence leads to a chain of events where countless rebels die, all because she could not be bothered to explain that she has everything under control and to plan in motion. That I do agree with, as I just pointed out. But not before she has to finally sacrifice herself in a move that invalidates all of their movies, as she breaks the Star Wars universe by hyperspace ramming a dreadnought. Well, here's the thing with that. We don't know. We've never seen what would happen going into hyperspace that fast. We know they had one jump, and it, blast you through. Could have been like a bullet. Could have worked, could have not worked. We've never seen it before. Ultimately, I found the scene to be pretty freaking cool, and I thought that was a badass way for her to go out. But that being said, I also feel that should have been the way that Leia went out. I feel that should have been the way that Leia went out, and then that would have been, I think, a much more dramatic, hard-hitting sacrifice that people would not be complaining about. Because keep in mind, by the time we got to this part in the movie, we're supposed to care about Holdo. We don't care about Holdo. We there's no reason to care about her. We never had it. They crammed 2 movies into one here, so that's clearly a problem. But again, Laura Dern is not the problem here. The character, even the way that it was handled, is not ultimately the problem. It was part of bad storytelling, not just the fact that the character is female, which is one of the reasons why, again, I have issues with this particular title. Now, it's no wonder that the same character believes in astrology, a children's game focused on tarot cards and zodiac signs, about valid as reading the chicken bones and pig guts. A lot of people out there look at that as a source of comfort, very similar to religion. So if I don't know if the author of this article is a religious individual, but if they are religious and they believe the Bible but are knocking people pulling out tarot cards and reading the charts of the stars, you're kind of a freaking hypocrite. Just want to put that out there. Whether some female writer thought about inserting some hocus pocus she believes in Star Wars to validate herself, or somebody confused astrology with astronomy, is unknown. That wasn't really, if that was in the movie, I didn't see it, and I've seen it twice now. I'm going to go see it a third time next week, so I'll have to look for that particular part, but I don't quite know what he's referring to in there. The question remains, though, which one is more pathetic? The final character, Rose, a small Asian woman, isn't much better as we spend 30 minutes with her on a casino planet sequence that is ultimately pointless and ends with them saving space dog horses and Rose pretending that the effort was worth it. Interesting note, it was preferred to saving the enslaved children who cared for the pod race replacement animals. That is very true. That is very true. They released the animals, but not the little children. That is, yeah, pretty funny. But then again, also at the same time, how many slaves became, kind of like dependent on their masters? And these were children. They maybe knew, but they maybe didn't have the full grasp of the situation. And what was Rose going to do? Take them back to the ship? Take them back out there because they didn't go back to the, take them to the dreadnought. I mean, like, ultimately, what were they going to do? They could have like let the kids go, but the kids probably just would have been caught and gone back. So again, the argument, is playing to a larger message. I'd say in terms of, like PETA type stuff, animal rights type stuff. But that scene, as much as I disliked it, was still about how war is a very lucrative business, and these are people who are playing all sides and getting rich off the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, based upon those who were destroyed when the Starkiller base took out that entire solar system in Force Awakens. So that's kind of the point they were playing at there. It was a very interesting point, but at the same time it fell flat because we didn't get any time to delve into it. The politics were set up, but it was never given a good solid conclusion. Now, in the finale, Rose blocks a certain male character from sacrificing himself to save hundreds of rebels, dooming them all to their death and stopping said character from having an actual arc. She explains her reasoning in a line that rivals Anakin's famous monologue about sand and idiocy. We're going to win this war not by fighting what we hate, but by saving what we love. Now, yeah, I chuckled at that myself. I thought that was kind of, I'm like, oh, they're going to kill off Finn. And I was actually holding on board with that. I like John Boyega. I think he's good in the role, but Finn served no purpose in this movie. He had a purpose in the Force Awakens, obviously, but in this movie he served no purpose. I mean, even went as far as to basically set him and Rose up in a relationship, and that's why they introduced Poe Dameron to Rey at the end of the movies, because that's going to be their love triangle between Kylo, Poe, and Rey instead of Kylo, Finn, and Rey. They're kind of removing Finn. They should have just ultimately killed him off. And Rose too. It would have been an interesting sacrifice if that would have been their kind of moment, similar to Jyn Erso at the end of Rogue One, where she's with Diego Luna. They're on the beach, they're embracing. Clearly they have feelings for one another. Clearly they know that this is the end, and they're spending it together without saying it. That's one of the reasons why that scene at the end of the movie was very powerful, because you got that relationship. Here it was kind of like a Deus Ex Machina, blew it out of proportion, and it should not have gone that way. I would have preferred them to absolutely positively just rip off the ending of Rogue One. But also, I like the message. You do stop a war by fighting, not by fighting what you hate, but by saving what we love. And I do feel that is a good message, and one that is ultimately lost many times in this day and age. And again, maybe call me a stupid sap in that regard, but I do believe in love, and I do believe that it does eventually lead to us doing things that will benefit people and save people versus, not. But then there are evil people out there that will take advantage. So it says, finally here, it seems Disney went too far in a few places, and already their new flagship franchise is stumbling. If the executives at Disney wish to course correct and not end up like DC Cinematic Universe, burn, it would be wise for them to start with the person who did not plan this trilogy ahead of time, and the team who failed to do their job in securing consistency from one movie to the next. And here's the thing, he's correct. But ultimately, titling this article "Meet the Women Who Ruined Star Wars" is just clickbait. And you know what? I'm not going to lie. It got under my skin. Hence why I've spent the last, 19 minutes responding to this article. Star Wars means a lot to me, as evidenced by, you can kind of see the Millennium Falcon rug that I have there, as well as all the Star Wars shirts that I wear. And so I very much want to see the franchise succeed. Looking at the women on the screen right here, the only one who the buck stops with is Kathleen Kennedy. And as a result of this article, he spent more time attacking the characters, Rose and Admiral Hodo, versus the powers that be that allowed them to be spawned in the first place, which would be Kathleen Kennedy. Kennedy has been a long time a friend of George Lucas. She came into, working with Amblin Entertainment with her husband, Frank Marshall, co-founded it with Steven Spielberg. Back in the day, she worked on E.T., she worked on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. She knows Spielberg, she's known Lucas for over 3 decades. And when Lucas sold the franchise, or sold everything over to Disney, she was tapped as the person to replace him, thinking she has been the longest person there. She understands everything. And here we are in a situation now where you have to almost look at this as being part of the Me Too movement, because Kathleen Kennedy now is part of the commission that is going to be tone policing Hollywood, or in essence, really pushing for almost like McCarthyism in Hollywood when it comes to dealing with sexual harassment. And so the way that she's been clearly running her story group at Lucas, which is not at all, because if there was a story group there, I don't care if it's made up of all women, all men, or whatever, or, as long as they're focusing on telling a better story and putting it through to the next, logical conclusions and the next steps and setting up other movies and whatnot, I'm fine with that. But I feel like their story group is more focused on telling the ancillary tales through the books. Leia's got her own books. Phasma has her own book, and she had 2 minutes of screen time in the movie. Notice how that character wasn't put in here as well. I thought that's kind of funny, where Phasma was built up as this big kind of like super feminist icon because Gwendolyn Christie plays, that character in real life, essentially. And they just, this article failed to touch upon that because she also was a very misused character. And even Rian Johnson said he had no room for her. Well, that's because he tried cramming 2 movies into one 2.5-hour long film that just failed on many, many, many levels. That's not to say I don't hate the movie. I am palpable to it at this point, and I've made my peace with it in terms of the things I dislike. But it's Star Wars, so I'm never not going to like it entirely. So again, women aren't ruining Star Wars. People are ruining Star Wars. That's the thing to take away from this. That's what I wanted to mostly say over the course of the last 20 some odd minutes, is that it's not that women are ruining it. It's that people who aren't seeing the forest through the trees, they're not plotting for the future, they're not plotting out these story arcs, are not running it correctly. And they might interject some of their politics in there, and you know what, you're going to find that regardless of who's a writer. You're going to find that regardless of who's around. It's just people interject their own politics in these stories. The idea there is to look past it if you can. My recommendation would be for Bob Iger to replace Kathleen Kennedy, and I've said this before. I feel after 3 movies, and what can only be looked at as roughly a failure of the Han Solo film, considering the fact that that is now the rumor that they're getting ready to write it off, and everything else. It's time for Kathleen Kennedy to be replaced by someone who actually can run a story group, can actually run a studio, and can actually produce these films that are worthy of the billions of dollars that they're earning. Because the longer they run like this, and they're not telling good stories, and maybe that was the point. Like, I'll end it with this. Maybe that was the point. Maybe they wanted to destroy everything we knew about Star Wars with this movie, so then they could start fresh. And if that's the case, I would prefer them to come out and say it. So then we know that going into the next movie is not going to be like that. But truth be told, is J.J. Abrams writing and co-writing and directing. And since he played it safe with the last one, you know he's going to play it safe with this one in order to get all the fans back that are mad at The Last Jedi. However, I want to know what you guys think about this. This is a complicated issue. It is one that evokes a lot of emotions from fans, new fans, old fans, apathetic fans, angry fans, cynical fans, huge super fans. And it's one that I think is something that we all can discuss about the future of the franchise. So I do want to know your guys' thoughts about this. So let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been the Mundane Matt channel. If you guys haven't already, thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, check back often for more content from me. And if you want to support the channel, links below in the video description, PayPal, Patreon, Bitcoin, Amazon affiliate. And if you just want to watch more content from me because you think I'm awesome and you like me, which you should, you can do so right now.